Halloween is the one night of the year when we embrace the spooky, the strange, and the downright terrifying. We tell ghost stories, dress up as monsters, and dare each other to walk through haunted houses. But what happens when the make-believe horror of Halloween collides with something truly, chillingly real? Tonight, we're not talking about costumes or decorations. We're diving into 3 disturbing true stories that all happened on Halloween night. These aren't legends or campfire tales. These are real events that happened to real people, turning the most festive night of fear into a genuine nightmare. So, turn down the lights, make sure your doors are locked, and get ready. The stories you're about to hear prove that sometimes, the most terrifying monsters are the ones that don't wear a mask. Our first story takes us back to Halloween night, 1975, in the affluent community of Greenwich, Connecticut. The town was buzzing with its usual festive energy. Kids in costumes ran from door to door, their bags heavy with candy, their laughter echoing through the crisp autumn air. For 15-year-old Martha Moxley, it was supposed to be a night of fun with friends. She was popular, vibrant, and had her whole life ahead of her. That evening, she was heading to a pre-Halloween party just a few houses down, at the home of the Skakel family. The Skakels were well known in the area, related to the famous Kennedy clan. It was a typical teenage gathering: music, friends, and the harmless mischief of what they called mischief night. But as the evening wore on, something went terribly wrong. Martha was last seen leaving the Skakel property around 9:30 p.m. She told her friends she was heading home, but she never made it. The next morning, her mother grew frantic when Martha wasn't in her room. A search began, and the unthinkable was discovered. Martha's body was found beneath a pine tree in her own backyard. She had been brutally beaten with a golf club. The weapon, a 6-iron, was found nearby, shattered into 3 pieces. It belonged to a set owned by the Skakel family. The investigation immediately focused on the 2 Skakel brothers who were at the party that night. Thomas, who was 17, and Michael, who was 15, the same age as Martha. Both boys had been seen with Martha that night. Thomas was reportedly the last person seen with her. Yet, the investigation was a mess from the start. For years, the case went cold. The powerful influence of the Skakel family was rumored to have stalled the investigation, leaving Martha's family without answers and a killer walking free. The town of Greenwich was haunted by the crime, a dark shadow hanging over every subsequent Halloween. Then, more than 2 decades later, a new book about the case brought forward new witnesses and reignited public interest. In 2002, Michael Skakel, now a grown man, was arrested and convicted of Martha's murder. It was a shocking conclusion to a case that had puzzled investigators for a quarter of a century. He was later granted a new trial and his conviction was vacated, leaving the case once again in a state of uncertainty. To this day, the murder of Martha Moxley on that Halloween night remains a chilling reminder of how real horror can lurk just beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect suburban life. Our next story is a bit more recent, and it taps into a primal fear many of us share, the fear of what might be lurking just outside our door, hidden in plain sight. It was Halloween night in a quiet, family-friendly suburb. For one woman, we'll call her Sarah, it started like any other Halloween. She'd decorated her porch with pumpkins and fake spider webs, and had a big bowl of candy ready for the trick-or-treaters. The evening was winding down, and most of the younger kids had already gone home. Around 10 p.m., her doorbell rang one last time. When she opened the door, she saw a figure standing on her porch. It was a man dressed in a classic scarecrow costume, burlap sack over his head with crudely cut-out eyes, a flannel shirt stuffed with straw, and old worn-out jeans. It was a pretty good costume, she thought. Very traditional. She smiled and said, "Aren't you a little old for trick-or-treating?" The figure didn't respond. He just stood there, motionless. Sarah, feeling a little awkward, just held out the candy bowl. "Well, here you go," she said. The scarecrow didn't move to take any candy. He just stood there, staring. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The playful Halloween spirit suddenly vanished, replaced by a cold knot of dread in her stomach. His silence was unnerving. The way he just stood there, perfectly still, felt unnatural. She tried to laugh it off, saying, "Okay, well, have a good night then," and slowly started to close the door. As she did, the scarecrow took one single, deliberate step forward, planting his foot in the doorway to stop it from closing. Her heart leaped into her throat. This was not a prank. Panic set in. She slammed her full body weight against the door, trying to force it shut. The scarecrow pushed back. It was a terrifying struggle, silent except for the creaking of the door and her own ragged breaths. She could see his shape through the small gap, the burlap masked just inches from her face. Adrenaline surged through her, and with one final, desperate shove, she managed to slam the door shut and immediately threw the deadbolt. She scrambled away from the door, her back against the wall, heart pounding in her chest. She listened, terrified. She heard nothing, no footsteps running away, no laughter, just silence. After what felt like an eternity, she crept to the window and peeked through the blinds. He was gone. He had simply vanished into the night. She called the police, but they found no one. Was it a prank that went too far? Or was it something more sinister? Sarah never found out. But every Halloween since, she turns off her porch light and pretends she isn't home. The silent scarecrow taught her that sometimes, the costume isn't just a costume. For our final story, we traveled to Pasadena, California on Halloween morning 1992. Two students from the California Institute of Technology, known as Caltech, were getting an early start on their day. They were walking near a ravine on the edge of campus when they noticed something strange. There was a sleeping bag lying by the side of the path. Thinking someone might have been camping or was homeless, they didn't pay it much mind at first, but something about it felt off. Later that day, after returning from their classes, they saw the sleeping bag was still there, untouched. Their curiosity got the better of them. They approached it cautiously. A foul odor hit them, and a sense of dread washed over them. They unzipped the bag just enough to peer inside, and what they saw would haunt them forever. Inside was the body of a young woman. The victim was later identified as 19-year-old Cynthia Risco, a student at a nearby community college. An autopsy revealed she had been assaulted and murdered. The investigators were stumped. There was little evidence at the scene, and no obvious suspects. The case quickly went cold, another tragic story swallowed by the passage of time. Cynthia's family was left without closure, grappling with the senseless loss of their daughter. For 14 long years, the mystery of the girl in the sleeping bag remained unsolved. The case files gathered dust, and hope for justice faded. But then, a breakthrough came from an unexpected place: science. Advances in DNA technology allowed investigators to re-examine the evidence collected from the crime scene in 1992. In 2006, they got a match. The DNA belonged to a man named Vincent Sanchez. At the time of the murder, Sanchez was a 29-year-old Caltech janitor. He had been questioned briefly during the initial investigation but was never considered a prime suspect. He had since moved away and started a new life. Police tracked him down to his new home and arrested him. Confronted with the undeniable DNA evidence, he was convicted of Cynthia's murder and sentenced to life in prison. After nearly a decade and a half of silence, technology finally gave Cynthia a voice and brought her killer to justice. It's a somber reminder that even on a day dedicated to fantasy and fright, real evil exists, and the ghosts of the past can sometimes be brought to light by the science of the future. And that brings us to the end of our stories for tonight. From a high society murder to a silent, terrifying visitor, to a cold case solved by modern science, these events show that the line between festive fun and real-life horror can be terrifyingly thin. It makes you wonder what other true stories are hidden behind the masks and decorations of Halloween. What secrets are buried in the shadows of our own neighborhoods? Thank you for joining me on this journey into the dark side of Halloween. If you found these stories as chilling as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the unexplained and the unsettling. Stay safe out there, and remember, you never know who, or what, might be knocking on your door.